I think I'm a very, very good manifester. I mean, before I had a teaching in my life. When I look back on my life, I think I know, I felt it. I'm a very good creator, which comes with sometimes a downside because I'm very, very good at creating everything I want to have. I mean, I'm from France. I always wanted to be in the USA, married, have dogs, and that's my life today, you know? But in the same time, I think I'm good at creating things that I don't want.
Well, remember that the contrast is what parlays the desire. And it's the managing of that contrast that is the balance that is so delicious and fun. Because if you could ever get it done, and you can't, if you could ever get it done so there wasn't more contrast that was causing you to ask for more, then there would be no energy flowing. And so once you get that clear in your understanding, that sometimes your inner being, you understand the concept of your inner being, the reality of the existence of your inner being. Sometimes your inner being will actually inspire you into something that you call contrast and unwanted, because it's the next logical step to cause you to formulate an asking that will shore up a whole bunch of stuff you've already put into your vortex. Because it all starts with asking. It's all about supply and demand. It's all about demand and then supply. It's all about cause and then effect. It's all about asking and then it being given. And so if something doesn't happen that causes you to ask, a lot of people are so sensitive to not wanting anything to ever be a little unsettled in their life that they don't let themselves ask for much. They just try to keep everything reined in as much as they can. They don't ask for bigness. They don't ask for much more than what they already have, because they fear that that upheaval is out of balance, and therefore it's something not to be appreciated. Therefore it's something to feel regret about, when what it really is necessary for desire, necessary for step one. Do you know all creation takes place in step one? That's when you do all your launching of all of your rockets. That's when it happens. Step two is source just lines up with what you've asked for. And step three is you let it in enough that it manifests so that others can see it. But the creation happened in that contrast. Don't you like knowing that? And aren't you sort of ready to stop condemning the contrast and start embracing it and appreciating it and even reveling in the discovering of it?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me now because I'm in a place where, you know, I meditate every day. I'm satisfied but eager for more. But sometimes it's very hard because when you're so satisfied, how can you reach
need a lot more trauma and drama in your
No,
life.
no. No.
We're on it.
No, please, no. I had enough. And
well, then would you like to edit your own vibrational offering? Yes. Instead of saying it's very hard, would you like to focus what you really mean? I have been misunderstanding. What you're saying does not go down well in a world of deprivation. His words were, I've got it so good that I don't have strong desire pulsing within me. Most people don't want to hear that from you, but we don't want you to care what most people want to hear from you. Did you hear us earlier? You're not ever going to get it done, and you are not ever going to be free of contrast. And you know what's really going on? Here's what's really going on. You're really going to appreciate this, because this is what's really going on. It's not that there is no contrast. It's that you refuse to reap the reward of it. Because you have believed what the peanut gallery has been saying for so long, those who are disappointed in where you are, those who need you to live just the life that they want you to live in order for them to feel satisfaction with where you are. And so even those who come to gatherings like this are fearful of experiencing contrast for fear, being the teachers that you are, that you won't look good or that you'll look weak. Some years ago we were teaching. It was called the creation box, and you just got some box of some kind. And You just put representations of things that you desired in the box. And Jerry said years before that he had played that same game with a bulletin board where he had cut out pictures of things and made statements of desire, and he'd put them on a bulletin board, and then he hid it in the closet because he didn't want anybody to know that his life wasn't already perfect. And years later, that bulletin board was in a closet for a long time, long before Esther knew him. And he found the board in moving, and he looked and he said, everything on the board had already happened. It had happened in a relatively short period of time. But the point that we're making here is he, even in all of his then wisdom, didn't want others to see him as needing or still wanting something, because as a deliberate creator, you don't want to admit that you're still open for new stuff. That's what regret is. Regret is believing that I should be more right now. And I so should be more right now that then I'm not even going to own up to where I am. And we want to say, this is something that is so good to know. This is the brilliance of your inner being. This is the advantage that we have to you. We know where you stand right now, vibrationally, in relationship to everything you want. And we see our work as to call you in the direction of what you want. Because what you want is where you really are vibrationally. So who you have already become is calling you forward. But if you are pretending that you are other than where you are, then you can't hook into that guidance. That would be like, can you imagine your navigational system? So you program in your destination, but when it says Waze would like to use your current location, you say, don't allow. But guide me to where I want to go. And your navigational system says, all righty, but where are you? Not any of your business. You might not approve of where I am, so I'm not going to tell you where I am. Well, your inner being does know where you are. And so your inner being, knowing where you are, is always giving you guidance. But if you're not owning up to where you are, then you're less likely to recognize the guidance because you're pretending that you're somewhere other than where you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
That was a big answer to something that felt like not such a big question, but it was a really big question. Your big question is, things are so good. Are they complete? No. Do you want more? Yes.
Can I have more?
There is no ending to that. But you see, you've got something stuck in your vibrational craw because you've been taught by those who don't understand this, who think that expansion is finite and that the pie of abundance is one little pie that you're all squabbling over. There's a misunderstanding at the heart of that lack consciousness. And so once you understand the expansive nature of who you are, and that the universe expands in proportion to desire, and that if this time-space reality has the wherewithal to inspire a desire within you, this time-space reality has the capacity to deliver the desire to its finest detail. But you got to accept that. And what's stuck in your vibrational craw, a lot of others too, is that you've based how much you let yourself have on how other humans feel about what you have. You don't get to be beautiful and rich. You don't get to have the love of your life and the freedom to travel. Most of the world would say, look at me over here in my deprivation. And why should you get all of that? Well, you can't let anyone outside of you be the gauge of what you, because no one else can even understand the relationship between where you stand and what you've asked for. You have to let yourself desire, and you have to own up to where you are. Not too long ago, something happened with Esther and another person, and Esther was shocked that she was having the conversation that she was having. Didn't feel justified and didn't feel accurate and didn't feel right, and she really didn't like having it. She resented it. And then she's taken her walk after meditation, and she's back in alignment so she can hear us. And the mantra that we are all chanting forward vibrationally for her to interpret is, It's only attraction. There is no assertion. No assertion, there's no assertion. There's only attraction, which means nobody is doing anything to you ever. You're attracting it all. You're attracting it all. You're attracting it all. You're attracting it all. So sometimes when you factor in the response that you think others will have about your attraction, then you try to limit your attraction, but you can't, because your life has already summoned it. So since your life has summoned it, but you're trying to limit it because you have beliefs about how others feel about you, then you get sort of wonky, and then you say things that are not accurate, like, I should not get to have it all. And don't worry, you're not ever going to have it all, because what you want keeps changing and there keeps being more. There's no limit to your ability to attract. We were talking to a person recently, conversation similar to this, not exactly. And this person introduced into the conversation the word vehicle. It was about employment, occupation. We liked the introduction of that concept. So we said, imagine finding a vehicle, liking what you see, and enjoying it for a while, and then looking over there and seeing a more pleasing vehicle. So just step out of that one into this one, and off you go for a while until you see another vehicle. And then you step into that, and off you go for a while. And as the audience was listening, because we're always taking the vibrational temperature of the audience as we are moving forward in these discussions, there was a ripple in the room about, really, we get to be so selfish that we get to just choose what's better for us and just keep moving on? What about leaving that vehicle behind and that vehicle behind? What about those that we leave behind? And we say, you don't leave anyone or anything behind, because in your co-creating with them, you have become the essence of what they are. But you can't stand still. You got to keep moving forward. And there are so many people that misunderstand that one fine point, that your inner being is always calling you toward coming into alignment now with who you are, which introduces into this important conversation. This is what we really want you to hear. The path of least resistance. What in the world is the path of least resistance? Path of least resistance and the path of most allowance are the same thing. We say the path of least resistance because we want to make the point that there's resistance on your path, and we want it to be all right with you that there is resistance on your path. We're having that discussion with you too. It's all right for there to be resistance on your path. And it's also important for you to understand that it's resistance that you've put there that doesn't need to be there, but it's okay that it is there. So I've got resistance. You all right with that? You have resistance. It's on your path. You put it there. So does that form in your belly a sort of self-judgment that, why would I do that? Why did I do that? How can I get rid of it? That's not what your inner being wants you, because your inner being knows what your resistance is, which means what beliefs you hold that are hindering you. More important, your inner being knows who you really are and what you want, and knows how to call you around that resistance to what you really want. And that is the dynamic that you were highlighting in this discussion. Because you have normal, source energy approved resistance, because you have beliefs, thoughts you just continue to think. Your inner being doesn't condemn you like your peers do. Your inner being understands that there is resistance there and just calls you around it. And sometimes when you get called around a little resistance, it feels like you're stepping into a little more resistance. Does that make sense to you? But it's all sort of part of the process. It's all right. So we're just going to wrap this up with this powerful statement. Where you are is enough. And why? Because it has to be enough, because it's where you are. So it has to be enough. It's all right where you are. It has to be enough. Where you're going is the main event, but where you are is all right. It's all right. Where you are is all right. Where you're going is where you're going, but where you are is all right. And when you begin to make where you are all right, we didn't say where you want to be, because your desire is where you want to be. But when you stop flailing against where you are, can you hear this difference? When you stop flailing against where you are, then where you want to be will come so much more easily to you. And that's what this discussion is all about.